Have you ever observed that your priorities begin to change as you age? The aspects that used to seem crucial, such as having a wide network of friends, might not carry the same significance now. Honestly, after 70, having friends isn't really necessary. At first glance, this may seem unexpected, but upon further reflection, it becomes clear that prioritizing your independence and personal well-being can lead to some of the most rewarding choices in your life. In this video, we will delve into 6 reasons that suggest friendships may not be as essential in your later years as they once were. We will explore how your mindset, personal freedom, and even your health can enhance when you let go of friendships that no longer benefit you. This is not about feeling alone. It's about embracing life according to your own rules, liberated from the burdensome expectations and duties that often accompany social connections. Stick around until the conclusion, as you might discover that releasing the burden of sustaining friendships isn't merely freeing. It could transform your self-perception and enhance your later years positively. Let's dive in now. First and foremost, there's no longer a need for you to validate yourself to anyone. One major reason for not needing friends after 70 is that you've already experienced the stage of life where social validation was important. Reflect on your earlier days. How frequently did friendships center on demonstrating worth, conforming, or maintaining a facade? There was always a subtle pressure to impress colleagues, keep social circles intact, and ensure your presence in gatherings, all in the pursuit of being seen and accepted. However, you have reached a point in your life where all of that is no longer needed. Your legacy has already been established in the eyes of those around you. They no longer carry the same significance they used to. At this stage in life, you've experienced enough to realize that genuine satisfaction isn't derived from the validation of others. It originates from within yourself. There's no longer a necessity to pursue friendships for the sake of status, reputation, or social standing. Embrace your true self. You don't require anyone else's approval to validate your existence. A lot of young individuals find themselves preoccupied with concerns about their image, pondering if they are liked, admired, or respected by others. However, as you enter your later years, it becomes clear that none of that determines your value. Your value is determined by you alone, and you don't require a crowd to validate it. Consider a person like Harold, a man in his early 70s who dedicated a significant portion of his life to ascending the corporate hierarchy. He was constantly in the company of others, whether they were colleagues, acquaintances, or those who claimed to be friends. However, many of those relationships were formed out of convenience instead of authentic connection. As soon as he stepped away from his career, those connections dwindled. Initially, he sensed a desire to connect, to maintain those bonds. However, he suddenly came to an important understanding. What's the point of investing in friendships that were only formed due to work? Why pursue connections that lacked genuine significance from the start? Rather than clinging to friendships simply out of routine, Harold redirected his attention to himself. He began dedicating more time to personal hobbies, revisited past interests, and, crucially, he ceased worrying about impressing others. He discovered that without the burden of keeping friendships, he truly felt more liberated. Gone are the days of obligatory chit-chat, the pressure of social commitments, and the anxiety over others' opinions of him. He was just focused on himself, and for the first time in ages, that felt refreshing. That's the essential point. Once you stop looking for approval from others, you begin to see how much energy was spent on relationships that didn't truly enrich your life. There's no longer a need for you to demonstrate your worth to anyone. There's no requirement for you to meet anyone else's standards. You are the only one who needs to hold yourself accountable. Second, tranquility takes precedence over social interactions. With age, a transformation occurs. Serenity begins to seem much more precious than mingling. During your younger years, being in the company of others may have seemed essential. The sounds, the crowds, the discussions, everything seemed to embody a life fully embraced. However, as time passes, you begin to value something even more serene, and not merely a quiet, but the sort that enables you to genuinely relax, liberated from needless drama, responsibilities, and social exhaustion. Numerous friendships, including the positive ones, carry a degree of responsibility. There are calls to make, invites to respond to, and unvoiced expectations to keep in touch. Friendships aren't necessarily negative. At some stage, they may begin to seem like they require more effort than the value they provide. Honestly, there's no need for you to waste your time trying to match what others are doing. There's no need to feel pressured to be present simply because someone anticipates your availability. You've arrived at a point in your life where your time belongs to you, and you have the freedom to choose how to utilize it. Consider Margaret, for instance. At 74, she once had a wide circle of friends, meals, conference calls, festive get-togethers. Her schedule was perpetually packed. However, over time, she observed that numerous social interactions seemed more exhausting than satisfying. The dialogue began to seem monotonous, the same narratives recounted repeatedly. Certain friends reached out solely to voice their grievances. Some appeared to care more about gossip than engaging in substantial conversations. The happiness of togetherness had gradually transformed into a pattern she found unfulfilling. One day, Margaret chose to take a step back. She ceased to feel guilty about declining invitations. She didn't feel enthusiastic about it. She released the need to reply to every call or text right away. Instead, she began to welcome the silence. She realized that the time she had previously dedicated to managing friendships was now available for her to use as she wished. She enjoyed longer walks, immersed herself in nature, and finally read the books she had been wanting to tackle for years. Above all, she understood that being alone didn't equate to feeling lonely. It was serene. And that's the charm of this phase in life. You are free from the need to keep your days packed with ongoing tasks or discussions. To foster a sense of connection, you can appreciate your own presence without relying on ongoing approval from those around you. You have the option to select tranquility instead of stress, serenity rather than turmoil. If you've ever experienced guilt for stepping back from social commitments, keep this in mind. You're not stepping back from life. You are discovering a new level of satisfaction, one that originates from within yourself, independent of others. That kind of peace only improves as time goes on. If you're still tuned into this video and appreciating these insights, drop a comment with a number 2 below to let me know you're present. If you haven't subscribed yet, I suggest you go ahead and subscribe, and make sure to turn on the bell so you won't miss any videos. Let's proceed from here. Having fewer friendships leads to experiencing fewer disappointments. One of the toughest lessons in life is coming to terms with the fact that not everyone you consider a friend is genuinely supportive of you. Throughout the years, you may have encountered it. Individuals who were once near, now moving apart. Companions who grew distant when you sought their support. Many of these relationships ended up being one-sided. By the time you hit 70, you begin to realize that having fewer friends doesn't only translate to fewer social commitments. They also signify reduced letdowns. Friendships, regardless of their strength, carry certain expectations. One is expected to check in, remain available, and provide support. What occurs when those expectations fall short? Letdown. You reach out to someone, yet they don't respond. You put in the work, yet they don't respond in kind. You realize that you are contributing more than you are gaining. At this point in your life, is that kind of stress really necessary? No, the answer is not. At 78, he has witnessed You also free yourself from the letdowns tied to unfulfilled expectations. There's no need to feel annoyed when someone forgets to reach out. It's okay to not feel disappointed when a friendship diminishes. Instead, you can concentrate on the most significant individual in your life, yourself. This doesn't imply that you need to cut yourself off from others. It just indicates that you are prioritizing quality instead of quantity. You focus on nurturing the connections that are genuinely important, rather than keeping a lengthy roster of acquaintances. The ones that fill you with happiness and demand no energy to maintain. It could be family, a lifelong friend, or simply a deep bond with yourself. Those are the connections that matter. If you've ever sensed that friendships have caused more stress than happiness, remember that it's perfectly fine to take a step back. Choosing simplicity over complexity and peace over frustration is perfectly fine. A lengthy roster of friends isn't necessary for a sense of fulfillment. It's important to release those who were never genuinely present from the beginning. Your time becomes increasingly valuable. With age comes the understanding that time is your greatest asset. In your youth, it might have seemed like there was an abundance of it. Extra moments to enjoy with friends, additional opportunities to nurture social connections, and increased concern over who was present in your life and who was not. However, once you hit 70, your viewpoint changes. You start to realize that each hour, each day, and every single moment holds immense value. Once you grasp the real worth of your time, you instinctively start to choose more carefully how you utilize it. While friendships can be incredibly rewarding, they also demand time and dedication. There are calls to be made, visits to arrange, and plans to uphold. Some connections are definitely worth keeping, but many are just routines. We hold on to past relationships out of a sense of duty rather than true pleasure. At this point in your life, it's important to reflect on whether this is how you truly want to utilize your time. Is this friendship contributing to my joy? Or does it seem like just another item on my to-do list? Consider Richard, an 80-something gentleman who used to enjoy a vibrant social life brimming with dinner gatherings, group excursions, and frequent phone conversations. However, as time passed, his feelings began to change. The lengthy discussions that used to bring joy now seemed exhausting. The social events that once brought joy began to feel more like duties. One day, while enduring yet another lunch filled with trivial chatter and grievances, he came to a realization. He no longer wished to spend his time in this manner. He decided to make a change. He ceased agreeing out of routine and began declining when he wasn't in the mood to go out. Rather than wasting time on gossip or complaints, he focused on activities that genuinely made him happy. Engaging in reading, taking walks, discovering new knowledge, and relishing the tranquility of his own presence. What's truly unexpected? He felt a sense of solitude. He truly felt more fulfilled than he ever had, as he was dedicating his time to what was important to him, rather than conforming to others' expectations. That's the essential point. By releasing unneeded friendships, you acquire something much more precious: time for yourself. It's time to engage in the activities that bring you joy. It's time to savor life at your own rhythm. It's important to prioritize your own happiness rather than constantly catering to the needs of others. If you ever find yourself wondering whether to maintain certain friendships, consider asking yourself if this is the best way to spend your time. At this point in your life, your time is yours and yours alone. You have the freedom to utilize it in any way you wish. If you're still tuned into this video and appreciating these insights, drop a comment with the number 4 below to show me you're present. If you haven't subscribed yet, I suggest you go ahead and subscribe and make sure to turn on the bell so you won't miss any videos. Your support enables us to keep producing valuable content that informs and inspires you. Let's proceed now. True companionship originates from within. A common misunderstanding about aging is that happiness relies on having a wide circle of friends. However, the reality is that the most essential relationship you can cultivate is the one you create with yourself. Upon reaching the age of 70, you have dedicated years to learning, growing, and evolving. No one understands you quite like you do. With that self-awareness, you come to an amazing understanding. You are enough. Throughout much of our lives, we learn to look for companionship beyond our own selves. It's said that socializing is essential for happiness, and that loneliness is to be dreaded. However, being alone is not the same as feeling lonely. Many of the most content individuals in their later years are those who have welcomed solitude, viewing it not as loneliness, but as a chance for self-exploration, contemplation, and tranquility. Consider Eleanor, for instance. At 76, she once thought that being around others was essential for her sense of fulfillment. She constantly devised plans, reached out to friends, and packed her days with various activities. However, after some time, she began to observe something. Even though she was frequently engaged in social activities, she often felt more exhausted than energized. She came to understand that numerous friendships she had were rooted in habit rather than true connection. Moreover, she realized that she was perpetually modifying her behavior to blend into discussions, to meet social norms, and to prevent the sensation of exclusion. Then, one day, she came to a halt. She chose to dedicate time to herself, as she would for a cherished friend, engaging in activities she adored, reflecting on her own thoughts, and relishing her own presence. She enjoyed long walks, content in her solitude without the urge to reach out to anyone. She preferred visiting cafes with a book in hand rather than engaging in small talk. She dedicated serene evenings to contemplating her life, rather than stressing over keeping friendships due to a sense of duty. To her surprise, she felt lighter, happier, and more at peace than she had in years. Many individuals fail to see that. Genuine companionship isn't determined by the number of people in your circle. It's all about your level of comfort with who you are. By ceasing to depend on others for amusement, affirmation, or dialogue, you open the door to a kind of freedom that many individuals never truly know. There's no longer a need for outside distractions to occupy your time. You are the wellspring of your own happiness, insight, and satisfaction. And the elegance of this? When you genuinely appreciate your own presence, you draw in connections that feel natural and easy. Rather than pursuing friendships due to feelings of loneliness, you discover that the right individuals effortlessly enter your life. Individuals who honor your boundaries, who appreciate your principles, who contribute tranquility rather than stress. If you've ever been concerned that releasing friendships could lead to feelings of loneliness, keep this in mind. The finest companion you could ever possess is already by your side. By embracing that, you'll come to understand that you were never really alone to begin with. Letting go paves the way for a more enriching life. One of the most impactful actions you can take after 70 is to release. Release the burden of holding on to friendships that no longer bring happiness. Release the notion that your value is determined by your social circle. Release the notion that solitude equates to loneliness. When you let go of these expectations, you create space for a life that is easier, more liberated, and significantly more rewarding. Numerous individuals cling to friendships due to routine, even when those connections fail to enhance their lives. They go to events they find uninteresting, respond to calls out of a sense of duty, and maintain a facade simply because it's been their routine. What if you could skip all of that? What if you allowed yourself to release friendships that felt burdensome and instead concentrated on the things that genuinely bring you joy? Think about James, a man in his late 70s who used to think that being socially active was essential for healthy aging. He tried to maintain connections with old friends, even when those relationships had grown distant or shallow. He occupied his time with social commitments, believing that being busy equated to being fulfilled. However, one day he came to a realization. He was not having a good time. The discussions seemed to go in circles. The meetings seemed like habits. And beneath it all, he sensed a greater fatigue than a sense of belonging. Thus, he decided. He ceased to pursue friendships that had lost their significance. He began to focus on what was genuinely important to him. He dedicated more time to the outdoors, prioritized his health, acquired new knowledge, and welcomed the liberation that accompanied the absence of others' expectations. In the process, he stumbled upon something remarkable. He experienced a sense of lightness, joy, and tranquility like never before. That's the essence of releasing. It doesn't imply shutting yourself away from the world. It involves making room for what genuinely brings you joy. It signifies understanding that your joy isn't dependent on the number of people in your life, but instead on how in tune you are with the life you truly desire to lead. Here's what unfolds when you adopt this perspective. You shift your attention away from the people around you and begin to concentrate on what truly makes you happy. You start to value the small moments, rising to a serene morning, indulging in a pastime without interruptions, experiencing tranquility within your own mind. It becomes clear that true fulfillment arises not from keeping friendships out of obligation, but from embracing a lifestyle that resonates deeply and holds significance for you. If you've ever sensed that you ought to invest more in your friendships, consider this. Is it genuinely contributing to my happiness, or am I clinging to it simply out of routine? Once you allow yourself to release, you'll discover that life transforms into something simpler, lighter, and more rewarding in ways you never anticipated. If you're still tuned into this video and appreciating these insights, drop a comment with the number 6 below to show me you're present. If you haven't subscribed yet, I suggest you go ahead and subscribe, and make sure to turn on the bell so you won't miss any videos. Your support enables us to keep producing valuable content that informs and inspires you. As we conclude this video, let's take a moment to think about everything we've covered. The notion that friendships become unnecessary after 70 isn't rooted in loneliness. Rather, it signifies liberation. It's about releasing burdens that don't serve you, prioritizing tranquility over stress, and welcoming the life you genuinely desire. At this point, you've realized that distancing yourself from friendships that aren't beneficial can lead to greater joy, increased time, and a level of fulfillment you never anticipated. What caught your attention the most? Which of these reasons struck a chord with you? You might have begun to release friendships that seemed to require more effort than they brought happiness. Perhaps you've realized how much you appreciate your own presence when you allow yourself the opportunity. Perhaps this video offered you a fresh viewpoint on the importance of putting yourself first. We are eager to receive your feedback. Share your thoughts in the comments. What's one thing you learned today, and how do you intend to apply it in your life? We value your opinions, so please feel free to express them. Your feedback truly inspires and uplifts us. If you found this video enjoyable and useful, kindly like, subscribe, and share it. Your support enables us to keep producing valuable content that informs and inspires you. We appreciate your viewership and can't wait to have you join us in the next video.